Thank you. So now I'm following two hard presentations. So slight difference here. So my name is Jo Longdon. I'm a director of Innovate. So we're district heating developers, and I'm here today to talk about Mersey Heat, which we develop on behalf of PLNRE. So the scheme itself was originally set up to supply low carbon heat to the Liverpool Waters development, and which is a large regeneration project on the Mersey. We started looking at, okay, what was the best solution to decarbonise the network? We looked at heat pumps. We looked at aquifers, air source heat pumps, sewage heat pumps. We've looked at lots and lots of things, and obviously having a huge water source next to the development, it led us down the path of water source heat pump. One of the things we looked at in addition to the Liverpool Waters is, okay, what else is around the network? Who else would like to be interested in connecting? And that's when we started considering existing buildings that were in close proximity. But once the Mersey Heat network is fully built out, the intention is it will supply all of Liverpool Waters, which is around 9,000 homes, 4 million square feet of commercial space, and as I say, some of these existing buildings which I'll come on to. So this area here shows the extent, if you like, of the Mersey Heat network. So all of the light pinky buildings are planned new developments, and the browny colour are existing buildings that are not within Peel ownership necessarily, but are in close proximity to the network. The dark black box, it's probably a bit small to see, just north of the Stanley Dock. That is the energy centre location. It's called Great Howard Street location. It's a piece of land that is owned by Peel, right next to the railway line, and that is where the main energy centre is being constructed. So we actually we abstract water from the canal and we discharge into the docks. So we were successful in 2 awards. One of the very early ones. It seems so long ago now, and sort of pre-COVID. But the HNIP one, and this was around. We recognised that we needed to put in some infrastructure early to achieve the requirements of the network. And the main reason for this is, as I've just pointed out, Great Howard Street is on Great Howard Street, but it's a little bit away from the main development, and it's also a little bit away from the water. So we were having to navigate ourselves through some highways works, which was the main routes were already going through for resurfacement, and they're the main routes into Liverpool, so not ones that you can easily just close off again. They were putting an embargo on, which meant that once those roads were open and closed, we weren't allowed to go back in for 5 years, and we knew then that would cause us a challenge in order to be able to get to the main energy centre to supply the network. So the first award was to enable some of those early road crossings and linking some of the pipe work together that we'd already started to put into the ground. We were led by a number of developments that were happening in and around the area, and we'll come on to lessons learned later on, but that did mean a bit of a piecemeal delivery of pipework, which you wouldn't necessarily choose if you were going to do this in the future. The second award, a bit bigger, this was to help us decarbonise the network, because originally, the way back when, this was going to be a gas CHP scheme, as most district heat networks were. And then obviously with the changes around what developers were requiring for the new build developments, but also what clients were starting to request in terms of decarbonisation, moving away from gas, we started to look at the water source heat pump. So the second fund was to help us with that and the economics of making this scheme work. So in terms of progress and what we've done against those awards, so we managed to install the DM400, the biggest pipes that we've got on our network. So we oversized them. So they're slightly oversized for the need that we had, but we always knew there'd be some future expansion once people started to, a bit like George's comment, to build it, they will come. A lot of people now show interest, and we're so lucky that we did oversize those pipes, because otherwise we wouldn't have had the capacity to supply. We managed to do the construction pieces under Regent Road and Great Howard Street ahead of the 5-year embargo. We ended up actually tunnelling under Great Howard Street significantly to avoid other services, which was quite costly, bit of a headache, but it's done and it's buried and it's in. And we also installed the pre-insulated pipework, which joined up some of the earlier pipe that we'd managed to put into Princess Parade at Liverpool. So HNIP2, where are we with this one? Well, we're making good speed now. We had a bit of a delay. There was lots of delays. Everybody had delays around COVID and everything else. We've had lots of delays with managing to get easements and approvals, because obviously this isn't a council scheme. It's slightly different in the fact that it's a third party bringing it forward, but nevertheless, we've made good progress now. So the water source heat pump's fully designed. We've actually placed the order and it's being delivered in April. So you'll see some more press releases. I'm all about making this press release for this water source delivery. I'm probably building it up way too much from an engineering point of view, but it's quite a big thing for the Northwest to have a 3 megawatt heat pump delivered. So there'll be more press releases coming through on that. We've done all of the in SI, and that threw us some challenges again, even down to when we started construction of the energy centre, more challenges because of its contaminated landing areas, and we've had to do some cleaning up. But again, we've worked through it. But one of the lessons learned that we'll come to at the end is probably about George's point is you never really know until you start digging what you're going to find. We've got full planning permission and the energy centre is already in construction. We hope to have heat on November 24 this year from that water source heat pump and have a fully working energy centre, which will supply heat to some of the buildings we've currently got on a temporary heat supply. Part of the HNIP2 award was to start looking at the extension, if you like, past the new build to some of the existing buildings that were quite close in proximity. This area is the Three Graces area, so large existing buildings, and we've managed to complete the REBA 3 design on that as well. And we've been having really positive engagement with some of those customers, and hopefully, fingers crossed for some successful PSDS funding, we may be able to connect those in the early 25. So schemes like this aren't just about delivering a heat network for a few buildings. There's so many wider benefits, and I think with all the zoning and the regulation changes, these schemes will come into their own as being those first starter schemes, if you like. But this scheme in itself is of significant scale when you look at it. But we future-proof the scheme, like I say, low carbon. We're already looking at other sources of heat that may be able to feed into that network as it grows. Currently in the design, it saves around 4,200 tonnes of carbon against, once it's at full build, against an equivalent of gas, so significant amount. Our DBOM partner, which is Vital Energy on this scheme, they've managed to secure over 40 apprentices, and they work on a rotation basis. So a lot of them are getting some exposure to this scheme, and they'll go on, obviously, therefore, to spread that into the industry. And it goes on, but there's lots of opportunities for expansion. There's a construction hub. The Liverpool College brought forward a construction hub actually on the Liverpool Water site, and the intention there is to bridge that gap between training and employment. So again, that's going to be utilised more so now the construction's happening at Liverpool, so people can see actually this is what we talk about when we learn in college, and this is the reality of delivering networks on site. So the lessons learned. There you can see underground risk. That is the DN 400s that go under around 6 meters down under Great Howard Street, and that's how deep we had to go. So first of all, we had the issue to deal with of we couldn't go across the road because of the current works. But then we had to go under the road, and we had to keep going under and under and under and deeper because of various different reasons when we looked into the ground risk, but also because we had to avoid existing services. So one of the main sewage pipes runs through that that road as well. We've encountered quite a few. I could give you stories after story. I've probably like George says, I've got the scars as well for ground risk. But this is what you get when you're developing and regeneration sites that are old dockland. We have all sorts to deal with: unexploded bombs. We have contamination. There's all sorts buried in Liverpool docks, as there is in lots of other docks, as you can imagine. But ground risk is a big risk, and you need to manage that contractually. Really get into the contractual piece on that if you're doing this. Engagement. So we've done a lot of engagement with as many stakeholders as we can. And I think prior to this last year, a lot of people have sort of said, oh, yeah, well, if it happens, we'll look to connect. Will it happen, etc., etc. Now they can start to see things are happening, and there's pipe in the ground and the energy centres being constructed. And developers are starting to say, well, actually, if this gets built, this could actually save me a headache because I've got a low carbon network in the service roads. Then we're starting to see a lot more engagement from people. But previously, it has been a challenge and it's been a bit of a journey to come through. Engagement and time sort of fit together in the fact that if you are liaising with third parties, and that could be councils, it could be other landowners, it could be environmental bodies, because a lot of obviously the low carbon sources, give yourself a lot of time because these things don't happen overnight. And whilst everybody is working towards the same goal and the new regulations and legislation will help that, it still takes a lot of time. So for us, I would say when developing any heat network, other than the ground risk, which you can contractually deal with, engagement and time are the things that you really need to pay a lot of focus to. And that's enough from me. Like I say, these projects they've took so many twists and turns over the last 4 years, and we could probably talk about them all day, but that's hopefully giving you a little bit of a snapshot into it. Thank you.